Yeah, what the heck? I'll make it public. I talked. Oh my goodness. So, yeah, I guess I'll talk because this is getting to a point here where it merits some explanation because everything I've done to this point is stuff you can do really without a GitHub account. But if you want to host a repo that you just created locally on GitHub, you create an account on GitHub and then you create that new repository thing, and then it takes you to here, which shows you a few commands that you do locally in order to tie it to this repo that you just made of presumably the same directory name on both sides, locally and GitHub side. So here we are in this Moz repo, and I just paste those commands in, and it's going to execute a couple of them, and then it's going to leave me on the last one, which I hit enter for manually. And now I can go back over to GitHub and do a refresh on this page, and instead of the commands to execute, it now is the page showing you that you have indeed uploaded your repo. It's completely empty. There's nothing in that README because I just used the touch command to create it. But here I have now a new public repo in my personal GitHub on Moz. So I don't know how much I'm going to actually talk in these things, but you're welcome to follow along as I think through my steps in connecting to the Moz Links API. Yeah, so I guess I check chat every once in a while. I don't even know where that is. It's one of these. I'm going to break it out of the tab in the browser because it gets lost there. So we do this, then we do this, then we throw this like over here. So I always know it's on the last screen. It's on screen 7. That's a nice location. We're down to like no viewers. Anyway, I'll just keep this running. People might tune in and out, seeing what's up. And if you have any questions, go ahead and post them. I'll try and take a peek over there. Or maybe I'll move the chat here. I think it's a good opportunity to have an environment where I am. Yeah, let's do that. So I go here and I grab this and I say pop out chat. You popped out chat. And I drop that here on screen 1. And then I arrow snap it over to the right hand side. Select that. And now this oftentimes has both things bound together size-wise. Size-wise, it's bound together. Very nice. Now another thing I've been doing, because really I don't get that much chat, let's face it, who's out there listening to me. I try to run Karnak so anyone who's interested in the key combinations I use in Vim can follow along. I'll do a macro to start a new journal entry, and then maybe I'll even go into the repo to, maybe that's Karnak back there, it is. So once you have that, you want to minimize this, and it should just be working now. There it is. So that gives me some idea of how wide I usually make these windows. So it's a little bit narrower here, because how much width do you really need for chat, right? This will look pretty good. And maybe I'll eventually use power tools. I'm always adjusting these things. And it's like on a per chat basis, so it's like really tedious, but I don't do this really enough for it to be that tedious. So, I'll get down my preference, and when I want to automate it, I'll use some tools to automate it, be it proprietary or not. Not everything you use has to be free and open source, so not everything you use needs to be free and open source. the hosts are often because they economically have to be proprietary. There are exceptions. Things like Raspberry Pi help show the way. There's a laptop now that's like all upgradable parts. I have to find out about that so I can like name it and drop links or whatever. I wonder if GPT-4 could tell me that. What is that laptop from that ex-Facebook guy that's made from all upgradable parts? Question mark space. I'm going to look that up. Let's see. I forget what it's called. And if you can't just answer it there without just saying I'm going to look it up, then I'll go on to other topics because I don't want to linger too much on that. So I'm going to make a new folder for this project. I'm going to call it Moz. I keep it all lowercase so it's easiest to repeatedly type. I don't call it Moz SEO or anything controversial, like that. I want to go as plain vanilla as I can. Okay, so that plain vanilla as I can. We now have a Moz folder, and I can go into it, and it has that README that I created with the touch command that really doesn't have anything in it, but Jupyter, I'm pretty sure, knows a little about Markdown, so maybe I can say hello world. This will soon be documentation. So you can see the spell check going on as it goes. And that's one of the various things I turn on in the Linux hosted Jupyter that my DrinkMe script installs on a Windows 10 or 11 system. It's pretty amazing. I expect this kind of thing is going to be popular as people catch on to quite how powerful it is. So I'm just doing a little bit of setting up a README file that I will update later. This will soon be documentation. This is me connecting, or making my first attempt at connecting to the Moz Links API. Alright, whoops. I got my Vim bindings in my head, so I do that sort of by habit. And you probably could turn on Vim bindings, I don't know, but I'm using this for documentation just as much as I am for coding. In a Python notebook like this one, which really doesn't matter anymore, so I close it, and I discarded changes because I don't need any of the changes that were there. But there's also things that are still running. So if you really want to get rid of it, you can shut it down from there. I actually have no notebooks running because the markdown file doesn't count. That doesn't get a whole kernel instance, Python running instance in memory. But anything I do in ways of making a new notebook from inside this directory will, which I'm getting ready to do. But I'll take a peek around, and I'll start. We want to start things fresh here. So I use my keyboard shortcut. You can see there it's @J, and that starts to create a new entry. And now we're going to create a new notebook inside that Moz folder. Now it creates it untitled right away, and I want to right away change that to something that's a little bit more meaningful because nicknames are so important. Inside the Moz directory, we are going to create something which we don't have to worry about very much. We're going to call it test. That means we're not committing ourselves emotionally to any build of any software in this notebook. It's just a test. So we are free to test. People are popping in and out, I'll just keep going. Eventually, if someone wants to ask a question, you can feel free to. So what's interesting to me now, well, first the fact that I don't have ChatGPT here or GPT-4 here like the way I have over here in NeoVim. My text editor has more AI auto-suggest going on than does my code environment, which is really a experimental little code environment where you can document things as you go. So these code blocks, consider this a fresh install of Jupyter. You're getting started for the first time and you want to conduct a test. So you create a new notebook, you call it test, and you're like, well, let's do a hello world. And that reminds me, I'll show you something interesting maybe. Hello world in Jupyter, you don't even have to hold the shift. You just hit the single quote, hello world. And then you can run that code by hitting the run thing right there. That's hello world. Are you intimidated? Is Python seem scary? That's a Python hello world program right there for our first thing in test. Very appropriate. Those square brackets tell you how, what the count is in number of times executed. So if you ran that again, that would be 2. But if you had a different piece of code here, foo, that would be 3. And if you put bar here, that would be 4 bar. 3 foo 4 bar. All right. So this chat session is for nonsense. As you may notice, I am a fan. Nonsense of Alice in Wonderland is second to nothing but Oz. For Dorothy was rather no nonsense. A worldview like Alice she hadn't. and friends on their journey. And let's qualify that. Lifetime. That way it takes less explaining that later. Having command mode crisscross. Lifetime friends on her journey. She made in a heart she had in a brain. Alright, she had in a brain, in a heart, in a brain. It's a little redundant, don't you think? I'm going to keep it up to there, so I manually type it to take the suggestion. I'm like, yeah, and lifetime friends on her journey she made. It got to the point. It ended the sentence sooner than I would have. But I'm like, you know what? That makes for better writing. I'll take that suggestion. I'll occasionally keep getting crisscrossed. I'll occasionally flip screens to see if anyone's there, but feel free to chat. I think the Windows is attached. Maybe I want to double check. Well, if it wasn't connected before, it's connected now. And I have thrown out a hello to anyone who wants to hello back. So let's see. Okay. Let's get this 3-screen muscle memory thing stated to any possible future audience. Long shot. I know. Screen 1 is full screen command line. It now also has the chat window on it, but that's not usual. It's usually full screen-ish. It's maximized windows, so I have tabs in the taskbar displaying. And then the desktop 2 is similarly maximized Jupyter Lab as a Edge app, an installed Edge app. And that's a really nice place to run, Jupyter notebooks, back-ended by Linux. And because this screen here is a Linux terminal, really, it means that the Linux daemons that I have running in the background are actually active. And I can show you that in a moment on a optional screen 4. Where I actually happen to have a command line open for those repo setup things I was just doing. But anyway, screen 3 is almost always a maximized browser. So muscle memory wise, it's full screen Linux, full screen Jupyter, full screen browser. And you might find it interesting. I found it, a major decision to make that Jupyter comes before browser, because I want it to be assumed that I have a Linuxy place to run Python ready and at my disposal at all times as a more primary function of my day-to-day work than even having a web browser. Because really I could run Python in the first window if I exited out of NeoVim here, I could be doing Python stuff there. Even staying in NeoVim, I just start a .py file. And, of course, do Python here in this context. But here in a web browser, you might want a different browser, or, well, it's a distraction, a potential distraction. It's the rabbit hole of the internet, because it's a generic web browser. So you have two lines of defense focus-wise. This is the first, right? You always come back to your journal location. You always come back to where you do your writing as kind of your base of operations. This is your base of operations. It's Vim, though it's NeoVim and VI2. It's a testament to ages long ago, when bandwidth was precious. And bandwidth was precious, period. Efficiency of keystrokes is a thing in Vim because it was a thing in VI and VI. And so it gets into your fingers and is like driving a car. Muscle memory serves you well for life, really. Can you see yourself using VS Code this way? Amazing. And people do tune in and out, so I'll assume that if anyone really wants to chat, I should throw something up on the screen so you know all the time that you're invited to chat, right? I should make something friendly here, maybe a graphic element or something. I don't know. Well, let's continue on this path because we have Copilot, right? So there's some interesting notions here. This is a public journal. Everything I write here goes on web. Let's show you. So if we go forward and we look down, this one here isn't even labeled. So if I released this lately, that, oh, and the one after it is not labeled either. So there's a few that haven't been labeled. The last labeled one is this, adapting my drink me for Linux Pipulate script for Mac. So if we go over to an unused screen, we go past those three, past this one, which is screen 4, and we go to screen 5, and I bring up Chrome. I usually do this kind of testing in Chrome because I've got a much more limited set of bookmarks that I keep retrying. Now probably I'll start adding stuff here for my new in my new job role and stuff, because I'll have a new set of links to look at. But let's say we go to the blog. And so there's a bunch of stuff that wasn't really pushed out yet, but there's one of the unlabeled ones there, and then here is the last one that I showed you that had a headline. And yeah, you can drill down on these, but I'll release it. Interesting thing about the release process, it doesn't look as pretty. So @P, and you can see it goes here, and you can see the command that's being executed in a little bit from the script or something. That's weird. I have to look into why that is that way. And it gets caught down there like that for a little while, and then it seems like after a certain period of time, maybe a certain amount has cached into a buffered into a cache, something like that. It suddenly goes full screen and shows you what it's up to. And it's kind of different every time, which is interesting. But it is the output as I would expect it to be, although the numbers are in the reverse order that I was used to. So I am not sure if that's just because it's making me look at it a different way because it's going this far and freezing. That's probably it. But it doesn't let you show the rest of the way until it's completely finished. So it does feel a lot like NeoVim has a different buffering system for its macro input and output if your macros are doing I/O, which this one is. And I'll show you any of that if you're interested. It's kind of a tiny miracle that all my Vim macros ported over to NeoVim so cleanly, even though there's this odd screen update issue. It's happening, it's working, and suddenly it's going to pop to what it's supposed to, the end of the run after all the git commands have been executed, and that's just coming up in a moment here. Oh, I have vitamin water to wet my whistle. There we go. And so now that has been pushed up to GitHub, but it's not all particularly ready and showing yet. And I click this icon to monitor that, and here's the latest one being generated. So I won't bore you through sitting through waiting for that to be generated, but that's going to do that thing over there. We'll come over here and talk about this directory I'm creating. This is where I'm going to be testing the Moz Links API. And this is just a long, rambling video getting to the point because it's going to be a continuation of this journal thing. This is kind of like just fresh eyeball stuff. So we go to moz.com And it's already logged in as me. Hooray. And let's see, free SEO tools, I believe, is the way to get into the product. I'm just checking. Yeah, no, we don't have to do that. We can go right to here. I want to make sure I'm using the short path. And then from here, we can go right to here. That's what I'm talking about. And from here, we are in the links API documentation. So that's one of the first things we do. We grab that link and we go over here and we just drop that there. Here's the link to the Moz links API documentation. Now, if I were really good at making it as convenient for people as possible, I would do it like this, and the URL goes in the parentheses, and then the thing that's going to be hyperlinked goes into the square brackets, like so. And if you do it right, it will reward you with the color coding. It'll go, oh, I recognize that. That fits my language syntax highlighting rules. And so there's that now. And so we can read that. We can see what we're supposed to do. Boy, will I be showing you my API key on a stream? I probably will. They are apparently revocable. So let's try. I'll minimize the amount of time it displays, get it into a copy buffer depending on how it works. Log into your account, choose the plan, enter your payment details, generate your API key. I can probably jump right to there, I believe. No, this is probably me being logged in on my public side. Yeah, I'm gonna bet that's what's going on there. This login is probably my public login and not my Moz one, which has been comped. But you know what? While I'm on the public one, I'll see what I can do with the free level account. Try it free. And this is where you put the credit card in to try it free. I get it. Yeah. So I'm probably going to stop streaming, connect in through my work account, and get to a point where I have like a key sitting on a file or something, so that I don't have to like hide stuff during the stream and all, and make myself have to be smoothly logging out and logging into a different account. Yeah, I definitely will wind this video down and check in again soon. Oh, I'll show you that new published stuff first. Get as much out of this video as possible before I disconnect. Let's see if anyone's actually there. Yeah, it's down to no one, right? The timing is weird and sometimes it underreports, so I won't trust it that much in case anyone actually is there. We go to the home page, go to the blog, and we do a refresh, and there's all those ones that have no name, including this one. And this one. I'm clicking in because there's an actual graphic I tried to embed on one of these that I want to see if it actually took. Might be this one. And there it is. I might just throw that right onto my home page. Look at that. How would that look on the home page? It would kind of take the place of this, wouldn't it? Yeah, it most certainly would. Oof. Let's do that. I'll just do that in this video. In fact, I don't need to lift it off that page in any way because I have it in the code that is in the third post down. Get to that from the journal. There it is there. So I can copy that. B space index. And here is the home page of my site. That's the Dorothy image right there, and I can just put this other image in right there. I can wrap it in a proper image tag if I really wanted to. But what I'll probably do is see how this renders out. Maybe it's good enough. I'm putting the last one inside a comment in HTML or Markdown, whatever comment bracket. It's a strange bracket, but it works. Yeah, and now I can, from this file I could do it, but very traditionally I do it from B1, which is, you know, always my public journal. I know if I use the macro to generate the site from there, it will, you know, do all these steps in the publishing from the right context, the right location context. So I like to start it from there. And we will once again go over to where I would in Chrome monitor the creation of the site, the generating of the site. It's not going to show orange yet. It's still going to show green all the way down because this takes a while to actually get through here and do the git commands. And it's very just slow writing out. I'm going to research how to prevent NeoVim from buffering this output like this. I think that's buffered output we're suffering here. I'm not exactly sure, but that's my suspicion. And it's one of the few things about the switch from Vim to NeoVim that has, you know, has me scratching my head a little bit. Everything else has been very transparent and smooth. Yeah, people are still popping in and out. Pretty amazing. This is just a completely open-ended sort of project, but I do have to wrap up the stream because I have to change the login and get something, a token or something, throw it on the drive so that it doesn't have to be seen, that process. And then I'll talk through that, I guess, when I come back. That's it. Later, Gators.